If I'd learned to incorporate what I'm going to share with you in this video years ago, it would have revolutionized how I make comics and saved me a ton of time in the process. You know when you know that you really have to do something, but you don't really want to, so you just don't? I need to eat better, but chocolate. I need to go to the gym, but sofa. I need to draw backgrounds, but close-ups. Yeah, that last one's a doozy. There are a couple of reasons why we don't tend to draw backgrounds. They're difficult. You have to figure out perspective. You have to remember everything that's in the background when you change the camera angle, and they take frickin' ages to do. But what if there was a way to create the background and then reuse it over and over and over again? Well, luckily for us there is, and all we have to do is add another dimension, 3D. If you've never tried 3D before, or you have tried it and got really annoyed with it and then stopped it, then don't worry. I'm going to hold your hand through the basics of 3D so that you can make 3D assets for you to use over and over again. If you're new, I'm John, a comic creator from the UK, and I help people complete their comics without burning out. One of the best things about using 3D in your comic workflow is not only will you have the perspective figured out so you can draw confidently, but you'll have consistency in all of your panels. No more continuity errors in your work. If you don't have a 3D software program on your computer, then don't worry, because the one that we're using is free. It's called Blender, so go ahead and download it and we'll go through it together. If you've used Blender before, then skip ahead because I'll also show you how to implement the 3D models into your comic workflow. When you start a new scene, it should look like this. To rotate around your screen, click and hold the mouse wheel and move your mouse around. To pan around your scene, do the same, but hold shift at the same time, and to zoom in and out, just scroll in and out with the mouse. You're not going to use much more than that for basic navigation. To move the objects in your scene, make sure they're selected and then press G. You don't need to hold it, but now your object is connected to your mouse movements. Left click to place your object where you want to, or right click to go back to where your object was. You may have noticed a green line and a red line. That's your y-axis and x-axis. The z-axis is blue. You can snap your object to one of these axes if you want to by selecting the object, pressing G, and then moving roughly in the direction of the axis. As you do this, press the scroll wheel of the mouse and you'll see the line light up. Now the object will only move along that axis. And finally, we're going to play with this little fella up here. These are your different views, and you'll notice an X, Y, and Z. If you click on one of these, then your view will snap to that viewpoint, which is handy if you need to reorient yourself in the scene. Now we're just going to create some basic primitive shapes. To create a primitive shape, press Shift and then press A, and this menu will come up. The main two shapes you'll need are cubes and cylinders. Stick with cubes for now because they're easier to deal with, and ignore pretty much everything else in this menu. You won't need them. By default, Blender is in object mode, which doesn't enable you to change the object shape much. The only way to change its size is with the scale tool, which is here on the left. Or you can press S for a shortcut. But we want to be able to edit this and turn it into something else, so we need to go into edit mode. To do that, press Tab, or you can go in the top left and select it from the drop down. The first thing you'll notice are these little dots. These are called vertices, and they're points on an object where two edges connect. You can select a vertex and move it around with G to just move that point. To move more than one, you can either click and drag a selection over them, or click on one, hold Shift, and click on another. Now they'll both move at the same time. Go up to these buttons here and click this one to get into edge mode. Now you can only select the edges of your cube. You can move them around with G too. And the final one are faces. These are the sides or planes of the object, and you can manipulate those in the same way. There are a couple of other tools I want to touch on because I use them quite a lot. The first is the Loop Cut tool. You can press C to get to it, or click this button here. With it selected, hover over your cube and you'll notice a yellow line that wraps around it. That indicates where we'll be cutting. Imagine we're wrapping a rubber band around our object. That's what we're doing here. To make a cut, you just left click, but if you hold left click and move up and down with your mouse, then you can specify where the cut will take place. If you just cut, then it'll cut exactly halfway like this. The next tool is the Extrude tool. If you need to extend an object, you can select this tool and then select a face from your cube. A yellow plus will appear. Just click and drag on that and it will extrude out along an axis. If you use the circle to extrude by clicking and dragging on that, then you can extrude wherever you want, but that's madness to me, so just use the yellow plus. The final tool is the Inset Faces tool. That's this button here. Select it and select a face on your cube. Then simply click and drag and you'll see that it creates a face within a face. I'm going to inset the face on this cube and then extrude it down to show you how you can make a really simple box. I just inset the top face, There looks about right, and with extrude selected, I just push that face directly in. Easy. One final thing to note is the X-ray view or wireframe view. This is handy because when you select vertices in normal mode, it will only select the vertices that are visible. This is also true of edges and faces, by the way. If you hold Shift and press Z, then you'll go into wireframe mode. Now you can select everything regardless of whether they're facing towards you or away from you. Now what I've shown you makes up about 99% of what I use in Blender. I really encourage you to have a look at Blender Guru on YouTube because his tutorials really help me get to grips with the program. So how do we combine this new skill with our comic? It's actually really simple. First, you're going to want to figure out where your camera angle is going to be within your 3D software. So let's say I want this shot as an example. Oh, actually, if you're finding that stuff is in the way of your shot, like a wall or something, then select that wall and press H on the keyboard and that'll hide it. And then when you want it back, hold Alt and press H again and it'll bring everything back. I forgot to mention that earlier. So with the camera where I want it, now all I do is hit print screen and drag it across like this. Now go over to your drawing software of choice. I recommend Clip Studio Paint and paste it in. Just lower the opacity and you're done. Your 3D models are probably going to look quite similar to mine. They're going to look like PlayStation 1 graphics at best, but that's okay. All we're using 3D for is a placeholder for our art. So if your objects have curves in it or intricate detail, then that's fine because you can draw that over the top. And as you get more comfortable using this software, not only will you be able to create your models much more quickly, but you'll be able to create them more accurately to resemble what they're trying to resemble. This is a skill that will pay off really quickly and it will continue to pay off over the months and months that you use this software. So it's 100% worth the time investment just to get used to it. I wish I'd implemented this in my comic years ago because it would have made things so much more easy. This model of an office I did took just under an hour in total to make. As you can see, it's mostly made up of primitive shapes, but this enabled me to make this page and this page in a fraction of the time it would have taken me without it. Also, as a nice bonus, this is a really quick way to figure out thumbnail ideas too. You can take multiple screenshots of various different camera angles within your scene and then just choose the thumbnail that you think works the best. You can buy 3D models online and import them into Blender if you're looking for something specific. But if you create your own, then not only will it be exactly what you need, but it won't cost you anything. And if you use the models that you're making, then you'll draw with 100% confidence, knowing it's going to look exactly how you want it to look within perspective, and each panel is going to be consistent. It will also give you more options for different panels because you won't be relying on drawing just close-ups or medium shots of your characters with a blank or fuzzy background. Yeah, we all do it, we're all guilty, but now you don't have to. It's really helped me take the pressure off when drawing my comic flowers and shadows, which has made the whole process so much more enjoyable. Adding unnecessary pressure to ourselves to draw these backgrounds over and over again with zero help or guidance is something that we do quite a lot, and sometimes we do it without realizing it. And to show you what I mean by that, watch this video next where I put myself under a lot of unnecessary pressure as an experiment and I really didn't enjoy it.